Imagine looking at a medical scan of a severely blocked human artery. We're talking about the kind of angiogram where the doctor brings the family into that small, quiet room to discuss immediate bypass surgery or stents.
Right, they're really terrifying scenarios.
Exactly. Now imagine looking at that exact same patient's heart a few months later, and the physical blockage is it's gone. The artery is clear, blood is flowing normally.
And there was no surgery.
No surgery, no stents placed at all. The only intervention was a radical change in what that patient put on their dinner plate every single day.
Yeah, the clinical trials demonstrating this are honestly some of the most profound in modern medicine. When you look at the research, spearheaded by physicians like Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn and Dr. Dean Ornish, they didn't just suggest that eating a healthier diet might, make you feel a bit more energetic.
Right, it wasn't just about feeling good.
Not at all. They took patients with severe angiogram-proven heart disease, people literally on the brink of catastrophic cardiac events, and they implemented strict lifestyle and dietary interventions.
And the results were physical, right? Like documented proof.
Oh, absolutely undeniable photographic proof that the plaque inside their arteries had physically melted away. The disease was literally reversing itself.
The blockages actually shrank. I mean, for anyone listening who has ever felt like a diagnosis of high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease is just a permanent life sentence, that is a massive paradigm shift.
It changes everything.
It really does.
Yeah.
So for you listening, that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are unpacking insights from a cardiologist with over 30 years of clinical experience, and his core claim is that food is not merely fuel.
It's medicine.
Yes, the most potent biological medicine we possess. So we're going to decode the 4 hidden biological triggers making people sick, the 3 essential dietary components needed to fight back, a specific recipe for something called a super chapati, and the exact daily schedule to make it all work.
The frustration most people have with diet and lifestyle advice usually boils down to this one highly relatable thing. You can have 2 people sitting at the exact same dinner table, eating the exact same meal.
Like the same portion of rice, the same vegetables.
Exactly. The same bread, everything. But over time, one of those individuals develops a chronic disease, right? They become pre-diabetic or suffer from severe fatigue.
While the other person stays totally vibrantly healthy.
Right.
Which honestly makes it seem like genetics are the only thing that matters, or that the whole system is just, I don't know, completely arbitrary.
It feels arbitrary until you look at the microscopic environment inside their bodies. The source material categorizes the deterioration of our health into 4 specific biological triggers.
Okay, let's get into those.
Think of these as 4 internal thieves that just silently dismantle your metabolic health over decades. The first of these mechanisms is insulin resistance. To understand this, we have to basically follow a carbohydrate from the plate into the bloodstream. When you eat, your digestive system breaks that food down into glucose, which is your cellular fuel.
And that glucose enters the bloodstream and has to go somewhere.
Exactly. The primary destination should be your muscle cells, where it gets burned for physical energy.
But the glucose can't just, walk through the wall of a muscle cell whenever it feels like it.
No. The cell is essentially a fortress. To get inside, the glucose needs a specific hormonal key, and that key is insulin, which is secreted by your pancreas.
Okay, got it.
When insulin binds to the cell's receptor, the door opens, the glucose rushes in, and your blood sugar drops back down to a normal, safe level. However, a modern diet, one that's heavy in highly processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and artificial trans fats, it starts to coat those cellular receptors.
The source uses a really good analogy here, right?
Yeah, the analogy of rust building up inside a lock. So the pancreas is still producing the insulin key, and the key is going into the lock, but the mechanism is so jammed up with metabolic rust that it refuses to turn.
So the cell door just stays shut, which means all that glucose is now trapped out in the bloodstream with nowhere to go.
Right, and your body treats high blood sugar as a massive biological emergency. So the pancreas panics. It pumps out even more insulin, desperately trying to force those rusted doors open.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the stranded glucose has to be cleared out to save your life, so the body diverts it to the liver. And the liver handles this excess sugar by converting it directly into fat for long-term storage.
So sugar becomes fat.
Yes. There's a saying in hepatology that sugar and fat are brothers. Consuming excess refined sugar literally manufactures fat inside your internal organs.
I mean, if the sugar gets locked out of the muscle and shoved into the liver as fat, what does that physical buildup do to the surrounding tissue? Because packing your liver full of fat, that can't go unnoticed by the rest of the body.
It definitely doesn't. And that direct chain of events brings us to the second biological trigger, which is chronic inflammation.
Okay.
When we think of inflammation, we usually picture a twisted ankle or a cut on a finger. The area gets red, it swells up, feels warm.
Right, like an infection.
Yeah, but that's acute inflammation, which is actually a brilliant, healthy immune response. White blood cells are rushing to a localized injury to heal it. But when you pack your liver and your visceral cavity with ectopic fat, which is fat stored where it shouldn't be, your immune system misinterprets that internal stress as an invading pathogen.
Oh, wow. So it thinks there's a permanent infection inside your own organs.
Yes, exactly. The immune system responds by releasing these inflammatory markers called cytokines. You can visualize cytokines as like chemical smoke flares signaling for an attack.
But there's no actual virus or bacteria to fight.
Right, so those white blood cells end up attacking your own healthy tissue. This creates a slow-burning systemic fire deep inside the body.
Yeah.
The cytokine smoke just constantly circulates in your blood, damaging the lining of your blood vessels, your kidneys, your pancreas over years.
That is terrifying.
It is. In the medical field, whenever you hear a condition ending in the suffix itis, hepatitis, nephritis, arthritis, that is simply the Latin terminology for a specific organ or joint being actively inflamed and damaged by this internal fire.
Which is so scary because it is entirely invisible. Like if my knee swells to the size of a grapefruit, I immediately go to a doctor.
Of course.
But if my liver is experiencing that exact same swelling and heat, I might just feel a vague sense of lethargy and assume, well, I'm just getting older.
Exactly, it's silent.
So we have rusted cellular locks causing sugar to become fat, which triggers this slow-burning inflammatory fire. And if the organs are constantly inflamed and under attack, the cells themselves must be taking a massive beating.
They really are. And the cellular fallout of that fire is the third trigger, oxidative stress.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, every time a cell in your body metabolizes energy to keep you alive, it produces a tiny amount of exhaust. These microscopic exhaust particles are called free radicals.
I've heard that term a lot in marketing for, like skin creams and stuff.
Right, but biologically, a free radical is an unstable molecule because it's missing a crucial electron. And because it's unstable, it is highly reactive. It will aggressively seek out a healthy, stable cell nearby and violently rip an electron away from it just to stabilize itself.
Oh man, which means the healthy cell it just robbed is now missing an electron, so it becomes a free radical and goes to rob the next cell.
Exactly.
It's a microscopic chain reaction of damage.
A chain reaction that literally degrades your tissue. Oxidative stress is the biological equivalent of an iron tool left out in the garden to rust.
Wow.
Over time, that free radical damage targets your cellular membranes and even mutates your DNA, which accelerates aging and creates the foundation for tumors.
So how do we stop it?
To stop this rusting process, the body requires two things: a massive influx of specific plant-based nutrients that can neutralize the free radicals, and periods of physiological downtime to sweep the damaged cells away.
And I'm guessing our modern lifestyles don't really allow for either of those.
Exactly. When we eat poorly and continuously, we deny the body both the nutrients and the time, leaving our internal engine to rust faster than it can be repaired.
Okay, so a quick recap. We have insulin resistance as the rusted lock, chronic inflammation as the internal fire, and oxidative stress as the biological rusting of the cells themselves.
Right.
We need an incredibly robust defense system to manage all of that, which leads us to the fourth trigger. And the source material cited a statistic here regarding our internal defenses that I found absolutely staggering.
It really completely shifts your perspective on human biology. We tend to view ourselves as a single autonomous organism, right?
Sure.
In reality, the average human body is comprised of roughly 30 trillion human cells. But residing within your gastrointestinal tract are an estimated 38 trillion bacterial cells.
Wrap your head around that. We are a walking, breathing ecosystem. Genetically and numerically, we are more bacteria than we are human. Let that sink in. We are outnumbered in our own bodies.
It's wild. And those 38 trillion bacteria, their gut microbiome, they act as the command center for your immune system and your internal pharmacy.
Okay, what do they actually do?
When that bacterial ecosystem is balanced, the beneficial bacteria manufacture extraordinary compounds. For instance, up to 80% of your body's serotonin.
Wait, serotonin, like the hormone for happiness?
Yes. The primary neurotransmitter responsible for regulating your mood, preventing depression, and helping you sleep, it's produced in the gut by these bacteria, not in the brain. The gut also communicates with the brain via the vagus nerve.
Which perfectly explains the brain-gut connection. I mean, anyone who has ever eaten a massive, greasy fast food meal knows that an hour later, you don't just feel physically bloated.
No, you feel terrible.
You feel emotionally miserable, irritable, caught in a fog. You haven't just eaten bad food, you've actively disrupted the factory that manufactures your happiness hormones.
Furthermore, those good bacteria manufacture the specific anti-inflammatory chemicals needed to extinguish that slow-burning cytokine fire we discussed earlier.
Oh, wow, so they put out the fire.
If they are healthy, yes. But the microbiome is entirely dependent on what you feed it. If you constantly consume heavily processed sugary foods, you starve the beneficial bacteria and feed pathogenic harmful strains.
And then the bad guys take over.
Exactly. They multiply rapidly, overthrowing the ecosystem. This state of imbalance is called gut dysbiosis. When dysbiosis sets in, your internal pharmacy just shuts down. The fire spreads, the rust accelerates, and the locks freeze up entirely.
Okay, so the problem is clearly defined. The biological thieves are actively dismantling the house. How do we rebuild it? Because if the issue is this deep at a cellular level, the solution has to be equally powerful.
It is. The source material provides a highly targeted dietary intervention to reverse these four triggers. It's conceptually referred to as the trishul, or trident.
Like a three-pronged weapon.
Exactly. A weapon designed to fix the cellular locks, extinguish the inflammation, clean up the free radical rust, and feed the bacterial command center. These are the three essential dietary components we need to consume daily. Let's look at the first one, phytochemicals.
Okay, phyto meaning plant. So these are chemical compounds exclusively manufactured by plants.
Yes. They are incredibly complex bioactive compounds, and you can actually identify them with the naked eye. Phytochemicals are the pigments that give plants their vibrant colors.
Oh, like the red in a tomato.
Exactly. That deep red is a phytochemical called lycopene. The dark purple of a blackberry is an anthocyanin. The orange of a carrot is beta-carotene. To understand why they are so vital for us, you have to look at why the plant expends energy to create them in the first place.
Right, because plants can't just run away from danger.
Exactly. A plant is rooted in the ground. It cannot run away from a grazing animal, and it can't seek shade when the sun's ultraviolet radiation is intensely bearing down on it.
So the plant has to build a chemical shield to survive.
Yes. Phytochemicals are literally the plant's immune system and defense mechanism. Nature specifically concentrated these protective chemicals in the outer skin and the layers immediately beneath the surface to ward off insects, fungi, and UV damage.
And when we eat them.
When we consume those pigments, those exact same chemicals circulate in our bloodstream and act as antioxidants. They are the compounds that willingly hand over an electron to a free radical, instantly stopping that chain reaction of oxidative stress and clearing the rust from our cells.
But wait, if these phytochemicals are concentrated in the outer layers and the skins of the plants, our modern food processing habits are creating a massive nutritional deficit.
A huge one.
Like if you peel an apple, peel a cucumber, or peel a potato, you are meticulously removing the plant's immune system and just throwing it in the garbage, leaving yourself with a concentrated ball of sugar and starch.
It's tragic, really, and the historical context of industrial milling makes this even more devastating. In the late 19th century, the invention of the industrial roller mill allowed food manufacturers to take a grain of wheat and completely strip away the outer bran layer and the nutrient-dense germ.
Why would they do that?
Because the oils in the germ would go rancid over time. Stripping the grain left only the starchy endosperm, which produced a fluffy white flour that could sit on a warehouse shelf for months without spoiling.
So we traded cellular medicine for shelf stability.
Exactly. White rice and white flour are entirely stripped of their protective phytochemicals. You are consuming the empty calories that trigger the insulin resistance without any of the medicine required to clean up the resulting mess.
We are throwing away the diamonds and eating the coal. That's crazy. So keeping the skins on and eating unpolished grains secures the phytochemicals. What is the second prong of the trident?
Fiber. This is the structural carbohydrate matrix of a plant that human digestive enzymes are completely incapable of breaking down.
From a purely mechanical standpoint, that sounds like a flaw. Why should we prioritize eating a substance our bodies can't digest?
Because the magic of fiber happens during its transit. The source describes fiber as a gut broom.
The gut broom. I like that.
Yeah. Because it remains intact as it moves through your gastrointestinal tract, it physically binds to toxins, excess cholesterol, and waste, sweeping the colon clean.
Oh, wow.
But its most critical function relates to the 38 trillion bacteria we discussed earlier. While human cells cannot extract calories from fiber, fiber is the absolute preferred food source, the prebiotic fuel for your beneficial gut bacteria.
So it's basically their dinner.
Yes. When those bacteria ferment fiber in your colon, they produce short-chain fatty acids, which are miraculous compounds that repair the gut lining and signal the immune system to turn off the inflammatory cytokine fire.
Okay, so if phytochemicals are the rust remover, fiber is both the physical broom and the daily rations for our bacterial army, which makes the third component quite clear.
Fermented foods, things like unsweetened, live culture yogurt, traditional buttermilk, or fermented vegetables like sauerkraut.
If fiber is the food supply line for the bacteria, I'm guessing fermented foods are the actual reinforcements, like parachuting a fresh battalion of bacteria directly into the gut.
That is the precise mechanism. Fermented foods contain billions of active, live probiotic cultures. If you have spent decades damaging your microbiome with processed foods and antibiotics, fiber alone isn't enough because you just don't have enough good bacteria left to feed.
Right, you need troops on the ground first.
Exactly. You must introduce new live cultures through fermented foods to repopulate the ecosystem and then sustain that new population with the fibrous plant matter.
So we have our three F's: phytochemicals, fiber, and fermented foods.
Okay.
But the practical application of this is where most people hit a wall.
How so?
Well, the moment you start talking about antioxidants and microbiomes, the listener's brain immediately jumps to the supplement aisle. They assume they need to spend hundreds of dollars a month on exotic superfood powders imported from the Amazon, or, extremely expensive organic produce. How can someone incorporate this trident into their life using accessible, everyday ingredients?
The genius of the source materials protocol is that it actively steers you away from expensive supplements. You don't need exotic superfoods, you simply need to upgrade your daily staples. The most practical example provided is the formulation for the super chapati.
Okay, I love this part. Instead of buying a plastic tub of whey protein that is likely to cause severe bloating and gas, we can reconstruct the standard flatbread or roti into a functional medicine.
Exactly. A standard modern roti is baked using that heavily refined, industrially milled white wheat flour we just discussed. It offers a massive spike in glucose, practically zero fiber, and perhaps 3 to 4 grams of incomplete protein.
Basically useless.
Right. The super chapati replaces that empty flour with a specific equal parts blend of whole grains and legumes that you can mix together at any local mill.
Let's give the listener the exact formulation.
It requires 4 ingredients mixed in 25% ratios. First, 25% whole grain wheat, ensuring it is completely unpolished and retains the outer bran layer.
Got it.
Second, 25% whole Bengal gram, which is a legume commonly known as chana. Third, 25% sorghum, a hardy, drought-resistant grain known as jowar. And finally, 25% whole soybean. You blend these 4 dried ingredients and mill them into your daily flour.
Okay, but what is the biological impact of that specific combination? Why not just use whole wheat and call it a day?
It comes down to amino acid complementarity.
What is that?
Well, grains and legumes both contain protein, but they are individually incomplete, meaning they lack certain essential amino acids. However, when you combine a grain like wheat with a legume like chana or soybean, their amino acid profiles perfectly lock together to create a complete, high-quality protein structure comparable to animal tissue.
Oh, that's brilliant.
The nutritional mathematics are remarkable. One single super chapati delivers roughly 8 grams of complete protein, double the dietary fiber of a normal roti, and a massive payload of zinc, magnesium, and those protective phytochemicals.
Which means if you incorporate 2 of these with your lunch and 2 with your dinner, you are consuming serious macronutrients.
Absolutely. If you consume 6 of these chapatis over the course of a day, you are securing 48 grams of highly bioavailable plant-based protein. To acquire that same 48 grams from an animal source, you would have to digest roughly 250 grams of chicken breast, or 6 whole eggs.
But the crucial difference is that the chicken and the eggs contain absolutely 0 fiber and 0 phytochemicals.
Exactly the point. The animal protein feeds the muscle, but it does nothing to clear the rust or feed the microbiome. The super chapati delivers the structural protein required for muscle maintenance while simultaneously deploying the gut broom and the plant medicine.
It's incredible.
It is a flawless, gut-friendly staple that costs a fraction of what commercial protein powders charge.
It perfectly illustrates how convenience culture has just blinded us to fundamental nutritional wisdom. We pay a premium for food companies to strip the medicine out of our grain, and then we pay another premium to buy artificial protein and fiber supplements to make up for the deficit.
It's a terrible cycle.
But Knowing what to eat is only half the equation, because the source material is adamant that if you eat a plate of super chapatis and fresh vegetables at midnight, you are still going to trigger a metabolic crisis.
Timing is the final piece of the puzzle. We have to return to the concept of oxidative stress. Your cells are rusting throughout the day as they generate energy.
Right.
The body desperately requires a dedicated window of physiological downtime to conduct cellular maintenance and sweep away those free radicals.
And the protocol laid out in the source is highly specific. It's called the 916 method.
The schedule dictates that you consume your breakfast at 9:00 a.m., your lunch at 1:00 p.m., and your final meal, dinner, at exactly 6:00 p.m.
And the rules for the hours between those meals.
You consume absolutely nothing but water. No grazing, no caloric beverages, not even a handful of almonds.
Nothing.
Nothing. But the most critical component of the schedule is the period from 6:00 p.m. until 9 a.m. the following morning. That creates a strict 15-hour overnight fasting window.
To someone used to eating a bowl of cereal at 10:00 p.m. while watching television, a 15-hour fast sounds daunting. Why is that specific duration so vital to reversing the biological triggers?
It revolves around how your liver stores and distributes energy. For the first several hours after you consume a meal, your body is in glucose mode, easily burning the sugar currently in your bloodstream.
Okay.
Once that is gone, it taps into the glycogen, which are the short-term sugar reserves stored in your liver. It takes the average human body roughly 11 hours of fasting to completely deplete those liver glycogen stores.
So at the 11-hour mark, the easy fuel is gone.
And that forces the body to make a profound metabolic switch. It must look for an alternative energy source, so it begins burning stored visceral fat. But even more importantly, the absence of glucose and insulin triggers a cellular cleanup process called autophagy. Autophagy translates from Greek to self-eating. Because the cells aren't burdened with processing new food, the immune system acts like a microscopic Roomba.
I love that visual. A microscopic Roomba.
It's very accurate. It patrols your tissue, identifies damaged, rusting cells, and literally breaks them down to recycle their parts, clearing out the oxidative stress. Those last 4 hours of the fast, from hour 11 to hour 15, are when the deepest cellular healing occurs.
So if you eat a snack at 10:00 p.m.,
You spike your insulin, immediately shut down autophagy, and your cells just continue to rust.
but the reality of daily life is that people get hungry. I know countless people who adhere to the fitness myth that you must eat 6 small meals a day to keep your metabolism running. They feel that if they don't graze every 2 hours, their blood sugar will crash. How do you survive a 5-hour gap between lunch and dinner without grazing?
By understanding that grazing is actively destroying your metabolic health. Every time you consume a snack, you trigger an insulin release. If you snack all day, your pancreas is constantly flooding your system with insulin, desperately trying to force open those rusted locks.
So you never get a break.
Never. You never allow your insulin levels to drop to a baseline, which guarantees you will remain insulin resistant. You survive the gaps by ensuring your main meals are incredibly nutrient-dense, utilizing the super chapati and heavy fibrous vegetables, and by adhering to the 80% rule.
The 80% rule. The source provides a brilliant mechanical analogy for this to explain the physical dangers of overeating. Let's talk about that.
Right. Consider the mechanics of a standard kitchen blender or a mixer grinder. If you pack the glass pitcher 100% to the brim with ingredients, secure the lid, and hit the highest speed, what is the immediate result?
The pressure builds instantly, the lid pops off, and you are literally scraping smoothie off your kitchen ceiling.
Exactly. Your stomach operates on the exact same mechanical principle. It's a muscular sac that requires empty physical space to violently churn and mix your food with hydrochloric acid.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If you consume food until your stomach is 100% full, the mechanical churning action will physically force the digesting food and stomach acid upward past the esophageal sphincter. That is the mechanical, biological cause of acid reflux, heartburn, and indigestion.
You literally overflow the blender. That is such a vivid way to think about it.
Yeah.
But if you stop eating when you feel 80% full, you leave room for the digestive process.
Exactly.
If that 80% was packed with the complex fiber of the 3 Fs, it will digest slowly, keeping you satiated for hours.
Yeah.
You won't biologically need a snack. The urge to eat between 1:00 p.m. and 6:00 p.m. isn't actual cellular hunger, it's emotional eating.
Right, it's just a habit.
It's the brain seeking a quick dopamine hit from a salty or sugary snack to alleviate stress or boredom.
When you combine the nutrient density of the plant-based protocol with the disciplined timing of the 15-hour fast, You create an environment where the body has both the materials and the time to completely remodel itself.
It is an incredibly empowering realization. The diseases we fear the most, the hypertension, the blockages, the diabetes, they are not inevitably coded into your destiny. They're simply the blaring alarm bells, warning you that your biological triggers are misfiring.
Precisely.
The locks in your cells are rusted shut, your internal tissue is on fire with cytokines, your cells are rusting from oxidative exhaust, and your internal bacterial army is starving. But by deploying the 3 Fs, the phytochemicals, the fiber, and the fermented foods, you directly reverse those mechanisms.
You're giving the body what it needs.
Right. Swapping refined, empty flour for the synergistic protein of the super chapati rebuilds your structure, and respecting the 916 schedule gives your cellular cleanup crew the 15 hours they need to actually do their job.
It's vital to remember that you walk through life with 2 fully stocked, immensely powerful pharmacies operating inside of you at all times.
2 pharmacies.
Yes. The first is the deliberate choice of ingredients you place on your plate. The second is the 38 trillion bacteria regulating your immune system from within your gut. The medical outcomes of your life are largely determined by which prescriptions you choose to fill on a daily basis.
We have engineered a modern society where ultimate convenience has systematically stripped the natural medicine out of our agriculture, polishing off the essential fiber, peeling away the protective phytochemicals, and milling away the nutrients, only to turn around and sell the cure back to us in expensive